Good afternoon. Today is October 22nd, 2023. My name is Donovan Carter, and we are here in Bradenton, Florida at the Back to Angola Festival. I'm representing the Samuel Proctor Oral History Program at the University of Florida, and today I'm joined by
Ronan Hart,
Adolfho Romero.
And today we have the honor and privilege of interviewing the wonderful and incredible
Daphne Towns.
Thank you so much, Miss Daphne Towns, for joining us today. First question is, could you tell us when and where you were born? Sorry, when and where you were born?
I was born in 1962 in Nassau, Bahamas, capital of the Bahamas.
Wow. In Nassau. And you said Nassau's very close to Red Bay.
About 17 minutes by plane to Red Bay.
That is very close. So how did you end up involved in the Angola Festival?
Well, I got involved with the Angola Festival 2017. 2017, I was visiting the Manatee Mineral Springs Park on a community walk, and I saw the marker with the history of Red Bays and the Seminoles and the enslaved that once lived there. And when I read it, it talked about Red Bay Andros. I said, no way, that's where my mother is from. You gotta be kidding. How did this marker get in the United States? Now, of course, growing up as a child, you would hear the stories about coming from Florida and bits and pieces. I didn't hear much of it as my former cousins had heard because they lived in Red Bay. I lived in the capital. I was a city girl, you know. And so, but you would hear a story from time to time from my mom, from my aunt, and they would talk about our aunt who was an Indian, long, tall, pretty hair, soft skin, and that was as much as they told you. It didn't mean anything to us. Okay, we had an aunt who was an Indian. Okay, good, cool. We went on with our life. And then I came to the United States winter of '92, missions training school. And I was given a text that I would partake of hidden treasures in the sand. And so I went to mission school and trying to figure out what is this hidden treasure in the sand, and never found out until 2017. It was talking about the Angola maroon community where the artifacts was found from hidden treasures in the sand. Now you must realize I got this text in a dream.
Wow.
I had no way of knowing where in Florida this was. In my dream it said, Florida, you will partake of hidden treasures in the sand. I talked about it for 8 years with my colleagues. They were sick of me. They were like, go to Florida, find your hidden treasures, and shut up. I said, but I don't know where in Florida. They said, well, shut up until you find out where. But I talked about it for 8 years. And then I came to missions training school in Bradenton, Florida, which was also in a dream that I would go to missions training school, saw the names of the street and everything in a dream. It became crazy. My parents was about to commit me to a mental hospital because I don't know where in Florida, and I'm just talking about this dream that I had, and I'm gonna go to missions training school, and I'm gonna find this hidden treasure. And I heard my parents talking on one Sunday afternoon, just like this, and my mom said to my dad, she's been going on about this for months, no, for years. My dad said, are you crazy? We gotta take her to the doctor. Maybe she's having a mental breakdown. And she wants to be a missionary. Nobody in this family is a missionary. We have doctors, we have lawyers, we have accountants. And so I came out of my room and I'm like, you don't even have to pay for it. It's gonna all be paid for. I had in a dream, it's all paid for. I said, and my siblings went to university, you all have to pay for that. You didn't commit them to a mental hospital. I'm telling you, I have a dream that nobody has to pay for. Well, you really sound crazy now. It's in Florida. You don't know where in Florida, but I found it. I found it winter of '91. I came to Bradenton, Florida. My brother, I have a half-brother by my mother, came to the Bahamas, and he said, I was coming for a meeting. It was canceled. But then an inner voice said to me, look for your sister, whom I hadn't seen in 10 years. And so when he called me, I said, where are you? He said, I'm in the Bahamas, I'm home. I said, when are we leaving? He said, leaving to go away. I said, come, I gotta tell you about this dream I had. And I had told my employee at that time where I worked, don't schedule me after August, I must go in pursuit of this dream. I said, the last day of work is the last day of August because I'm going to leave the following week to go to Florida to look for this dream. Well, my brother came to the Bahamas 2 days before the last day of August.
Wow.
I said, where do you live now? I haven't seen you in 10 years. He said, I live in Florida. I said, let me tell you about a dream I had about Florida. Now, my brother's a minister, a pastor, so he don't think I'm crazy because he believes in visions and dreams. So he's like, sis, I don't know where it is, but I live in Florida. We can start where I live. So I came to Florida, and we went everywhere. Miami, Jacksonville, Fort Lauderdale, Fort Pierce. I don't see anything in this dream. Got back home one day, his wife said, this is crazy. Your sister had a dream about Florida, and you're going to drive her to every state in Florida? He said, if I have to. This is what we do as missionaries. And so she said, well, there is a camp here nearby, because they lived in Sarasota at the time. She said, there's a camp in Bradenton, and they do a lot of spiritual things, a lot of Christian things. Take her there. Maybe they can help her. Maybe they can help her, just maybe. So anyway, we proceeded to this place. And when we were driving to go to the place, I told him, this is the place. He said, how do you know? I said, the streets look the same. He said, sis, every street in America look the same. I said, oh no, it's the same in here, not up here. This is an inner thing, okay? And so we got to the place, and I said, I'm gonna tell you what the street name when we get, I said, I'm gonna tell you the name of the street, one of the street in my dream before you get there, so you don't think I'm crazy. One of the streets' name is gonna be named Glory Way, and one is gonna be named Faith Circle. And we drove into the property, and the name was Glory Way, and one of the streets was Faith Circle.
Wow. Wow.
He said, but sis, calm down. I don't know if they have a school. I said, they'll start one today. I'll be the first student. And I went in, I met the dean. I told him the same thing I just told you all. He wept. He said it had to be a higher power because we have no connection with the Bahamas. He said, and we have a school for missions. It's not an academic school, it's a school of the spirit to train you to listen to the inner man and to do missions. And that's what the dream said.
Wow.
I was sold. I went back to the Bahamas. I'm not crazy now. I don't have to be committed to a mental hospital. I took brochures of the school. I matched it up with everything that was in my journal. My sisters, everybody, she said, oh my gosh, she wasn't crazy. She meant this. But 8 years, everybody thought I was crazy. And then it wasn't until 2017, I saw the marker, and I said, I'm going to do a festival. I'm going to bring it alive. I'm going to find these descendants, and we come in. We're coming back to Bradenton. We're going to put on a festival. And I took 2 or 3 trips to Red Bay. Met everybody, met Sharona. My cousin at the time was a Defense Force officer working in Andros, and he connected me with Sharona, who is my cousin. And I said, Sharona, I got to put on this festival. Get them together. I'm going to bring you all here. We're going to make Red Bay a reality, which was once hidden, is going to be revealed again. Of course, then everybody here think I'm crazy. You're going to put on a festival in 3 months? I said, 3 months. That's all you need. I said, you can put on a festival in a day if you know what you're doing. Because I come from a land where we do festivals. You know, you get a group of people, you put music, you put food, and then we get the historian to tell the story. That's a festival. What do you think a festival is? And they said, no way, no way. I met with Dr. Baram, I met with Vicky, I met with Jeff and Trudy Williams, I met with Sherry Robinson, and they were like, wow, a festival? Vicky said, I always wanted, but I didn't know how we would get it started. She said, you think you can do this in 3 months? I said, I know I can. And 3 months later, we had the first Back to Angola Festival.
Wow.
We talked to the government of the Bahamas. They supported us, paid the descendants way, give them airfare, hotel. I was responsible for ground transportation and lodging. Sometimes I worked 97 hours a week to make it happen. 97 hours, because I didn't know anything but grants back then. All I know, I want to do this festival. They say, how are you going to do it? I said, I work. My forefathers worked with their hands and whatever knowledge they had. I work 97 hours a week sometimes. People say, how do you do it? I said, you do what you have to do if you have a passion for a dream. And that's what I did, and I put on the first festival. I emptied my bank account for the first festival. My husband thought I was crazy. I said, if I don't do this, I feel like the window of opportunity to make this a reality is gonna close. It's gonna close. I have to do it right now. Money come, money go, you always get money. It's only paper. Till you put an assignment to it, then it has a value. I was told by one of my mentors, money in the bank without an assignment is trash, because you're gonna waste it. But if you give that money an assignment, then it has value. So while I'm working 97 hours a week, I'm thinking about the next festival. I'm thinking how I'm gonna bring the descendants here. I'm thinking of how I'm gonna make this place an event space, how I'm gonna have a museum. I'm thinking about how I'm gonna collaborate with the Bahamas government and have a museum in Red Bay and a hotel. So when the people come to Red Bay, they're not gonna have to live outside of Red Bay and the money go to another community. I'm thinking about how I'm gonna keep the resources in Red Bay. Because my mind is always thinking about how to get a dollar. Like Jason said, I'm on one job. I have this event space. I'm a caregiver by trade, and I have a rental property. And all of this is so I can fund the vision and bring a reality.
Wow, that's absolutely amazing. So, I guess, what are your future plans for the festival?
My future plans are, one of it is the cultural group that Ms. Jackson just showed you. I'm hoping to have that intertwined with the Seminole Indians. They're going to bring their cultural dance, their drum, because this history is about the Seminole Indians and the enslaved. The first night we had one of the Seminole Indians here, Rhonda, and she spoke, so we've been talking about it. Then Uzi introduced me to one on yesterday, and we're thinking about having them to come and intertwine with us. Now, at the beginning, we went to Big Cypress. We talked about doing this together, but still, you know, everybody's heart is not ready to relive this story. And people say, this is a hard thing you're doing. I said, but I do it so we won't repeat it again. We got to tell this story, as hard as it is. And some of them said, nah, we don't want to get involved. We don't want to get involved. But some of them are softening up, and they said, we're going to do this. I said, yes, so it won't happen to your children's children when we're gone. We're talking about something that happened 202 years ago. So who are we to say, if we don't come together as one, this won't happen 202 years again? We have to unite. We have to be one. And as my cousins, everybody who sat around this table, we're related. And the first thing we were taught, love one another. Be kind to each other. You know, when my mother came to America to visit me, and she wanted to go on the city transit here, in the Bahamas, we call it a jitney. Here they call it city transit. And I said to her, now, when you go on the city transit, no good morning, good afternoon. Nobody's going to speak back to you. So I don't want you to feel bad about it. And she's like, oh, surely they won't do that. So she got on the city transit, good morning, how is everybody doing? Nobody answered. She was like, these are the most no-manners people I've ever seen. I said, I told you that's not a part of their culture. So he's getting off the city transit and she said, good afternoon, driver, you be safe. Everybody have a lovely day. And everybody looking at her like, where in the planet this woman come from? But in our culture, that's what you do. You get on a city transit, you greet people. And so I believe if we can do this, we have you all working with us. We have other organizations working with us. The Bishop Museum is now partnering with us. And we have the Bradenton Area Convention Center, which is the tourism board, is going to now partner with us. And they're realizing this is something that we need to keep alive, that we won't repeat what happened 202 years ago.
Wow.
That's the main goal. That's the main goal. I don't want to be in the archives of my beyond and know that my children's children's children are running for safety from a land somewhere and hiding in bushes and trees and putting on whatever to disguise to look for a better place. I don't want this repeated. So if I have to work 100 hours a week, that's my life journey and my call.
Wow.
So, I'm guessing you knew the story of the settlement or of the Black Seminoles before you actually made it to Bradenton and actually found the site here.
I've heard of it from my family, from my mother's side of my family, but nobody went into in-depth. Because now by the time I was born, my mother and all her siblings now live in the mainland. Only my grandmother still lived in Andros. She was not in Red Bay anymore because when the hurricane came and wiped them out, the government said, you have to go to higher grounds. And so this was what I was explaining to the Americans when I came here. They were like, well, we don't see your name on the list. And I said, well, you don't even know me. You don't even know who I am. I've had 3 surnames by marriage. None of them are my name, you know. And I didn't have time to explain who I was. I'm on a mission. I'm a missionary. And so we heard the stories, and my grandmother would talk about it in a little that she knew, and it was so painful to talk about. Sharona knows no more about it because they stayed. They stayed. My mom and her siblings wanted to get far away from it. They wanted nothing to do with it. It was too hard. My mother left school in 3rd grade. What do you know in 3rd grade? To go to work. To go to work. Because now by that time, the history had repeated itself, and men from the Caribbean was now contracted back to America to work the contract. Her dad came to the contract, did not return. When he returned, he was sick and died. So her being the strongest, her mom said, you have to come out of school at 3rd grade and help me to go to work. What do you know in 3rd grade to go to work? But this is, so they don't want to talk about that. She said, I couldn't even have an education because of what happened several years ago. And then they came back and grabbed our fathers and took them back there to work fields again. My dad worked the contract in the 50s. I was born in 62. He came off the contract in 64. And I remember one year he came home from the contract and he said, Dee, I can't stay. I was the baby then. I said, why not? And I wept. He said, I was called to come back to work the contract. And he had to leave. It's like the contract was like being in the military. When you sign that you're going to work it, you had to come back and work it. And he gave us all the goods that he brought for us, and he had to come back and work the contract. So you're talking about descendants from different time and space who have lost their loved ones, fathers being pulled away. Sometimes the women had to work the contract, and the next sibling had to raise the children. And so we saw this history repeated. 1821, I came in 62, it was repeating, and I told them 1821, it was just known as slavery. In the 50s, it was modern day slavery. And I don't want to have that happen again. So I've asked my Creator to give me the strength and the passion and the power to continue to tell the story, that we would realize that we are all part of the human race. And we were given dominion over the earth, not over mankind. Until we come to that reality that all man is equal, you'll always have one trying to dominate the other. We were supposed to take care of the fishes, the birds, the dogs, the sea. Not human. We were supposed to be one. And that's my mission as a missionary. That's a part of my mission.
Thank you.
So I'm thinking here, like in education terms, how is the story of Angola being told, I guess, locally in Bradenton versus other regions in the Florida region? Do you feel like they know the story the way that it should be told, and how can you, the work that you're doing, help create that knowledge, expand that knowledge?
Well, I've been talking with Sherry Robinson. We got 2 Sherrys in our circle. And talking with Dr. Sharon Jefferson, who's a part of the panel, and my sister Valerie. And we're all talking about an educational component of it. It's not widely accepted into the schools, but guess where we can get it into? Daycares. And I have several friends with private daycares. So if we educate 5 in each daycare, we have about 40 children who know the story. And then they can tell their 40 friends until it's widely accepted. Now the adults, they're learning about it. They're going to visit the museum. There's more information online. That's why I was so glad this festival, my government sent the broadcasting communication to broadcast it. This lady here worked for ZNS, the broadcasting communication of the Bahamas. That's where she's from. She's here. They were here on the first night with a full team with our Minister of Urban Renewal, and She was here with a full team. She's left behind to finish cover the story. So you're sitting here with, you know what I'm saying? So I like to see how we are already coming together as media personnel to take this story to the next dimension. And we're going to have a whole curriculum next year. We're having workshops leading up to the festival next year. We're going to have educational components coming out next year that is being written even as I speak, that we will share with children in a private setting. They can come here, and the school board can't tell me what to teach in here. This is private property, my property. Mm-hmm. You know? And I acquired this land so my family can see we can do this. It even ain't about owning this place. It's about let's rise above where we've been. When I acquired this land, I had $20 and a mind that I'm going to own it. That's all I had, $20. I made the phone call when it went for sale, and I said, I want to buy it. The photographer was here taking pictures. My girlfriend said to me before that I had a Christian bookstore in here. And she said, do you want to own this property? I heard in prayer, you need to own this. I said, if you heard it in prayer, I want to own it. That same day, a photographer came right here taking pictures. I said, what are you doing? He said, this property is going for sale. I said, I want to buy it. He said, it costs a lot. I said, I have no money problem. I had $20. But I'm a woman of faith. I called my husband at the time. He was in Jerusalem on a mission trip. I said, I got great news. He said, you coming through the phone? What happened? I said, we're going to buy the plaza. He said, what plaza? We have no money. I said, I have faith to believe. I said, remember, I came to Bradenton, missions training school with $3, 2 suitcases and a sewing machine. And the Lord said, go, it's paid for. And when I got here, my school was paid for. I said, we're going to buy this. I got more than $3 now. I got 20. We're going to buy this. And we bought it. And we bought it in 1995. And I bring my family here and let them see, this is what I want to see in Red Bay. A strip mall, a hotel. We can do this. We can do this. Our forefathers fought. They made it to the other side. And now we coming back to this side to say we survived. We're going to create jobs. We're going to create businesses. That's my 5 cents.
That's incredible. So I feel like I'm hearing a lot in all of the interviews I've done today, how much like being next to the United States affects the Bahamas. But I don't feel like most Americans or even most people in Florida are, super aware of the Bahamas or think about the Bahamas that much. But clearly from this story, they're so big in the history of the state and so like closely intertwined. So I guess what do you wish that just Americans in general understood about the Bahamas, understood about America's connection to it and the history there?
I would say from a perspective of doing my events that they would realize that we're your family. We were here. We're not foreigners. We normally say in the Bahamas, if Miami catch the cold, we blow the nose. That's how close we are. That's how close we are. I know when I worked in the Bahamas, I would come on a 7 o'clock flight and shop for everybody in my office and go back on the last flight that night and be to work the next morning. That's how close we are. So we want to say, we want them to see that we are one. We want it to work as one so we don't have another war again. In the human race, that's the worst kind of war. Mental. I heard a songwriter say, we have to be emancipated from mental slavery. The shackles are off, but we are enslaved here. And I want us to be emancipated up here as Americans, Bahamians, Chinese. Cut us all, we bleed, is red. We're one. That's a proof that we're one. Let's become one. Let us show the outside world that we are the human race. We're not the dog race, the animal race. And even the animal race get along. We had dogs, we had cats, and we see all of them laying in the yard together. Can we get along as one? And that's the story we try to display through the festival. And we intertwine with the Americans. And, you know, if you notice on the platform, we didn't have all Bahamians up there. I had American pastors up there. I had Israeli archaeologists up there. I mean, I can have a festival where it's only Bahamians, Gombe Festival, but I don't have to repeat that. That's done in the Bahamas. I want to do something in here to entwine all the culture. I had a city official said to me, I want to talk to you about doing a multicultural festival. I said, now that would be separate from the Angola Festival, because I don't want to lose this right here. With the Seminole Indians and the enslaved, I don't want to lose that. But I can show you how to do a festival. And I would help you with that, and I would work that festival. I would bring people to help you work that festival. But this, what we have here, it has to stay like this because we're in the virgin stage. You know, when I had my baby, my girlfriend who's a pediatrician, she said, now let me tell you something. You don't let everybody hold your baby. She said, you tell them, look, and you hold. And she said that with anything in life at the virgin stage, you cherish that baby. Don't let everybody take an arm and a leg, because everybody say, well, maybe we do your thing on Friday night. We do your, and then we do somebody else on Saturday. And I said, no. This is going to remain. But ain't nobody saying to me, how are we going to share these expenses so I can stop working 96 hours a week? That's the part I want here. I look at the bottom figure. And I said to them, that's why I made that statement yesterday, Sherry, about you have to spend and then get it back. But ain't nobody saying let's share the expenses. But I must do it now. I must do Friday night, open it, do a little bit Saturday, then somebody else. I say, oh no. I'm gonna work with you. But we're gonna share the budget too. Ain't nobody talking about that. This is real work here. And what I'm grateful for, that my husband allows me to work those kind of hours. You know, I had an assignment where I would go to work on Friday, and I see my husband again on Thursday. I had a live-in assignment, but I knew I had a festival coming up. And he said, do what you have to do. That's your call. I met you doing this. And a lot of people say, I don't see how we can let you do it. I say, no. It don't work like that. I have my assignment, he have his assignment. I know when my husband worked 24 hours assignment, I didn't see him sometime for 3 days. At Tropicana, he was a supervisor. So we understand each other's assignment and respect it. And I tell him I would work and work and work until I find out how I can get startup money till I wait on money to come. But I love what I do. I love the festival. I love my family. I love the Red Bay community. And I want to see improvement. I want to see growth. And I'm so happy that I have some people in my corner who's believing for the same thing. Thankful for Sherry Jackson with the National Underground Railroad has been so good to me, and my sister Valerie, and you know, keeping us encouraged to continue to do what we're doing. And we're going to keep the story alive. Me and Uzi always say we're here till 120. So we got plenty years to keep this alive.
So as we're kind of wrapping up here, I wanted to ask about, I guess, some of your, well, you know, you talk about your work kind of in missions and your husband's work in missions as well. This is kind of moving backwards a little bit, but
That's okay.
Has kind of faith always been important in your life, or?
Always. I was raised, my mother was Episcopalian and my dad was Baptist. Figure that out.
Yeah.
So you go to Episcopal church and you do Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord be with thee. And then you go to the Baptist church and be, and you shake your wig off, and you go to Episcopal church and you. So it has brought me grace, you know. But it's always been an important part of our lives. I know when I became an adult, and I like to dance, as you can see at the festival. And so we have something in the Bahamas we call discos. And so after I became an adult, I would go to disco on Saturday night. And I wasn't adult enough to not go to church Sunday morning because I was still living at home. So we would go to the disco and we would close out the discos 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. My mom said, I don't care what time you go to bed. 7 o'clock, you're going to be up to go to Mass. Mm-hmm. So you could choose if you want to stay out all night, but 7 o'clock, you're going to be in Mass. Mm-hmm. So it was always a part of my life. And then I got a call to go and be a missionary to America. And everybody said, America don't need you. I said, I need America. Mm-hmm. And I came here as a missionary. But my faith was always a part of my life growing up, always, always. My grandmother would take me to tent meetings back then. Mm-hmm. And she would tell the bus driver, well, you don't bring us home from the morning session. I'm going to pack her a lunch and we're going to stay till night. So when I see people drooping at the festival, I'm like, what happened? It's only 12 hours. What are you talking about? I was 6 years old and my grandmother was taking me to church from 10 o'clock in the morning till 2 o'clock the next morning. What do you mean it's too long? Come on, man. And this in the Bahamas, no air condition. You know what I'm saying? And we're in these big tent revivals with hundreds of people, no air conditioning, a few little windows. So faith has really kept me alive and has given me hope for a better tomorrow. And I have 2 daughters, and that's how I raise them, to make sure their faith life is as strong as their educational life. And I always tell them that. You think it's your education that got you where you are? You got to be kidding. Let me start praying and see what happened. They say, oh, Mom, stop it, stop it. I said, okay. But they get in a jam and they call me, Mom, could you give me a scripture? What do you believe in this? I say, okay. You got to keep that in the front. And you heard, I think, everybody who sat here, talk about their faith, because that's embedded in us. Put God first, put God first. If you get $10, give $1 to the church. If you get $20, give the church $2. I remember my dad used to plant fruit trees in the yard. And he would say the first fruit goes to the church for harvest, for the poor. We don't eat the first fruit. We give it back to the community for the poor. And so what I'm doing here is normal to me, because you go and you give it back. I believe if I didn't have that upbringing as a child, I couldn't do what I'm doing. Who's going to work 96 hours and then write a check for $40,000 to go over here and tell you wait for a check for $40,000 to come back? Who does that? Who does that? My sisters in the Bahamas, they say, give me your credit card. We got to book everybody ticket coming in. I say, okay, use the one on file. I have enough funds on that. And all you see is the card numbers bouncing. And then 10 days later, I got to write a check, clear it out, because I don't want my credit score to go down. But I've already worked all of these 96 hours. You see what I'm saying? So I think my faith allowed me to do this and bring awareness to my cousins and keep the names. We put the names. You have to get a booklet. Are y'all going to come to the park at any point today? Yes. We're going to have a booklet for you to see the 97 names that made it from here. Wow. I'm a part of the Samuel Riley clan, and that's in our booklet. That's in the booklet. We thought it was fair to put the names.
Yes.
And yesterday we did a moment of silence, and we called their names to let people know they were real. I had a girlfriend who had a stillborn right here, almost to my house. I had to take her to the hospital. I said, girl, you're about to have this baby. And when we got there, we heard the bad news that the baby was dead inside of her. And she said to me, she called me PD for Pastor Daphne. She said, PD, I'm not going into surgery if you're not there. I said, I'm not a doctor. She said, no, I need the presence of the Lord in there. They're going to put me to sleep to take a whole dead child out of me. I want to know the presence of God is there. And she said, I need you sitting by the anesthesiologist to make sure he give me the right amount, because I got to wake up from this. And I sat right there until he removed that dead child from her. And when that baby was born, I'm telling you this to say, she had to give that baby a name. And she said, a name? The baby is dead. She said, but the baby was born. Say the name. I want you to call the name that you had this child on this date. We're going to give you a birth certificate, and we're going to give you a death certificate. We're going to dress this dead child, and he's going to have a proper burial. And so that's why we stopped yesterday, and I thought it was important. Say their names. Say their names.
That's absolutely incredible. That's my last question. Yes. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank
Pastor
you.
Daphne Towns, we really appreciate your time here.
Oh, I appreciate each and every one of you, and I hope we hope to see you all again
Yes.
as we continue to tell this story